Something unexpected has just been uncovered in Africa, and scientists are genuinely disturbed by what it reveals. In the deserts of Namibia, researchers studying ancient marble found perfectly straight microtunnels carved through solid stone, tunnels that no known geological process can explain. Soon, identical structures appeared in Saudi Arabia, Oman, and across the continent, hinting at a hidden, rock-eating organism that once operated beneath Earth's surface. At the same time, new fossils, ancient DNA, and mysterious burials from Tanzania, Zambia, Libya, and Sudan expose abrupt climate flips and vanished worlds. What Africa has revealed is forcing scientists to rethink everything they thought they understood. The impossible tunnels inside Namibian stone. The discovery begins in the dry heat of Namibia, where geologist Cis Pasquier examines a block of Neoproterozoic marble formed more than 500 million years ago. As he studies the polished surface, he notices thin, perfectly straight tunnels, only 0.5 millimeters wide and up to a few centimeters long. They cut through mineral layers as if something bored into the stone long after it hardened. The rock should be uniform, yet inside it are bundles of tiny parallel shafts that look deliberate. Similar patterns appear along desert plateaus and river valleys across southern Namibia, and field teams begin marking every outcrop showing these strange bands. What disturbs them most is the geometry. No branching, no winding, no collision between tunnels. They run like controlled paths, repeating the same pattern across multiple sites. Under microscopes, each tunnel appears as a pale stripe, containing tightly packed tubes that start and stop at similar depths. Some follow fractures before turning into clean rock, ignoring mineral boundaries. Standard geological explanations fall away quickly. Weathering, karst, tectonic stress, and crystal growth cannot produce this shape or alignment. The tidy design suggests intention, not random natural processes. These rocks have remained stable for hundreds of millions of years, preserving microscopic features until erosion finally exposed them at the surface. Scientists realize they are looking at fossilized behavior, something that moved inside solid rock long ago. The unsettling question follows naturally. If life once carved through marble in this organized way, what else have we missed in Earth's deep past? The Namibian cliffs become silent archives of a hidden biosphere, forcing researchers to question how complete our understanding of ancient life truly is. Chemical evidence that something ate the stone. Thin slices of the Namibian marble reveal that the tunnels are filled with fine white calcite distinct from surrounding rock. Chemical testing shows this infill is depleted in key elements, meaning material was selectively removed. Along the tunnel walls, scientists detect halos enriched in phosphorus, sulfur, and altered carbon isotopes, signals commonly tied to biological activity. These halos resemble chemical shadows left by something that once lined the tunnel surfaces. No DNA survives, which is expected at such age, but the chemistry strongly indicates metabolism. Carbon isotope ratios fall within ranges associated with microbial processes, matching patterns seen when microorganisms dissolve minerals for nutrients. Across dozens of samples, the signature repeats consistently, making random inorganic reactions highly unlikely. The evidence points to something slowly digesting carbonate minerals from the inside. Modern analogs exist. Endolithic microbes in the Atacama Desert, Antarctica, and other extreme environments live inside rocks, dissolving minerals to access water and nutrients. But the Namibian tunnels show more structure, aligned, parallel, and controlled, rather than random or porous. No known organism carves identical blind-ended tubes like these. Dating the tunnels is difficult, but geological clues suggest they formed within the last 1 to 2 million years, long after the marble itself formed. This places the unknown organism's activity in a period when early humans were already present elsewhere in Africa. The tunnels are not industrial artifacts or recent contaminants. They record a genuine episode of subsurface life operating at geological depth. The controlled tunnel shapes imply coordinated growth, responding to chemical cues or internal biological rules. Whether extinct or still existing in deep carbonate aquifers, this organism adds a new, unclassified strategy to Earth's biosphere. For scientists, the disturbance lies not in danger, but in the realization that entire forms of life may have operated unnoticed beneath our feet. The same tunnels turn up across Africa and Arabia. Reports from Saudi Arabia and Oman reveal microtunnels almost identical to those in Namibia, appearing in limestone outcrops separated by more than 3,000 kilometers. These rocks differ in age and environment, yet the tunnels share the same 0.5 millimeter width, the same ruler-straight alignment, and the same banded groupings. Such precise similarity across continents makes independent geological formation unlikely. Instead, researchers begin speaking of a once widespread rock-eating biosystem stretching across the African-Arabian desert belt. In all regions, the tunnel bands behave the same way. They follow fractures like microscopic pipelines, then peel into intact stone before stopping abruptly. Each tube in a band keeps its direction, suggesting a shared environmental cue, perhaps groundwater chemistry or mineral gradients. The tunnels end at consistent depths, and none intersect, indicating a limit on how far the organisms could penetrate solid carbonate. This pattern looks less like random exploration and more like a coordinated biological front advancing through rock. The hyper-arid deserts of Namibia, Arabia, and Oman preserve these features exceptionally well. With little soil or vegetation, erosion slowly reveals deep layers, exposing microburrows formed long ago. To field geologists, it appears as though the desert has peeled open a geological cross-section, revealing the shallow plumbing of an ancient microbial world. Researchers now imagine thin layers of rock-boring organisms, living along fractures deep underground, advancing slowly and leaving aligned tunnels as their trace. When groundwater retreated or climate shifted, these communities died, and the tunnels gradually filled with calcite. What remains is a ghost map of a vanished subsurface ecosystem capable of influencing carbon storage in ways we had not previously recognized. Rock-eating life and Earth's carbon engine. Carbonate rocks such as limestone and marble store most of Earth's long-term carbon, regulating atmospheric CO2 over millions of years. Traditional models treat this process as mostly inorganic, driven by rainfall, erosion, and plate tectonics. But the Namibian and Arabian tunnels show that biology can directly eat away at these carbon stores from within, not just at the surface. Even slow dissolution across vast volumes of carbonate rock can shift carbon flows between stone and atmosphere. Modern parallels already exist. Microbes in the Atacama Desert, polar regions, and dry mountain ranges dissolve minerals to access water, leaving measurable chemical scars. Bioweathering of buildings demonstrates how quickly microbial metabolism can erode stone on human timescales. If organisms like those behind the Namibian tunnels operated for thousands of years, their impact on carbon cycling could be substantial. Researchers are now turning to ancient environmental DNA, which can survive up to 1 million years in sediments. Africa may hold far richer archives than expected, especially in caves, lake beds, and desert shelters. Coupling AEDNA with the chemical fingerprints of microtunnels could reveal how subsurface and surface ecosystems once interacted. The possibility of microbial carbon feedbacks unsettles climate scientists. If these rock-eating organisms grew faster under certain groundwater chemistries, they could either release carbon through dissolution or help trap it through indirect precipitation. We currently lack data to determine their effect, making them an uncounted variable in climate models. Africa's microtunnels serve as physical proof that hidden biological mechanisms influence Earth's carbon engine. Their discovery forces scientists to reconsider how many unseen processes have shaped the climate system, processes we may still be missing today. Africa's fossil basins remember the world before the Great Dying. In the Ruhuhu Basin of Tanzania and the Luangwa and Mid-Zambezi basins of Zambia, researchers have spent more than 15 years uncovering fossils from the final moments before the Permian-Triassic extinction, the greatest die-off in Earth's history around 252 million years ago. Field teams hike across remote valleys, mapping outcrops and carefully lifting skeletons preserved in hardened mudstones. These fossils record ecosystems that thrived just before global climate collapse transformed the planet. The basins contain remarkably preserved species, Dicynodonts, tusked and beaked plant eaters, Gorgonopsians, agile saber-toothed predators, large temnospondyl amphibians, and early relatives of mammals and reptiles. The fossils are detailed enough to compare with those of South Africa's Karoo Basin, allowing scientists to track subtle changes in species abundance. Layer by layer, they see a pattern: brief diversification under stress, followed by sudden disappearance as climate conditions deteriorate. As teams stack data from different depths, they watch entire communities shift toward drought-tolerant species before collapsing entirely at the extinction boundary. These patterns match global signals linking the extinction to massive CO2 emissions from the Siberian traps, which triggered runaway warming and forest collapse. The Tanzanian and Zambian fossils show how ecosystems at southern tropical latitudes responded to this stress. The disturbing takeaway is how normal these ecosystems look until the final stretch. They seem stable, even flourishing, right before the crash. For climate scientists, this is a deep time warning. Systems can hold steady until they pass a hidden threshold, after which collapse is rapid and irreversible. Lessons from an ancient climate tipping point. A research group at the University of Leeds analyzed African fossil records alongside rock chemistry to reconstruct plant productivity during the Permian to Triassic crisis. Their findings show that the collapse of tropical forests dramatically reduced carbon drawdown, locking Earth into extreme warming for millions of years. Even after volcanic CO2 emissions slowed, the biosphere no longer had the strength to stabilize the climate. Once forests disappeared, the planet stayed in a super greenhouse state far longer than the initial trigger alone could explain. During the late Permian, southern Africa sat in tropical to subtropical zones of Pangaea, making the Ruhuhu and Luangwa basins prime records of low-latitude responses to warming. Fossils reveal shifts toward hardy, drought-resistant species before sudden collapse. This mirrors model predictions showing that ecosystems may look stable until they reach tipping points, where small increases in temperature push them past recovery. Modern parallels are unsettling. The Congo Basin today acts as a major carbon sink, much like Permian forests once did. Increasing droughts, warming trends, and deforestation risk pushing portions of it into becoming a carbon source. If such a flip occurs, even aggressive emission cuts may not restore balance quickly. These African fossils show that climate thresholds are real, abrupt, and long-lasting. They remind scientists that Earth's carbon system contains hidden switches, and once those switches flip, recovery may take geological time rather than human time. Human stories in a Sahara that was once green. In the central Sahara of Libya, the Takakori rock shelter sits above a dry wadi, but around 7,000 years ago, it overlooked a lake surrounded by grasslands. Excavations reveal layers of hearths, plant remains, animal dung, and tools, forming one of the most detailed records of life during the Green Sahara period. Pastoralists herded cattle, sheep, and goats through a landscape that today feels impossible. Burials within the shelter include two remarkably preserved women, whose remains carry genetic clues to a long, isolated North African lineage. DNA analysis shows these individuals belong to a deeply separated population, distinct from both sub-Saharan Africans and early farmers from Europe and the Levant. They carry only about 0.15% Neanderthal DNA, less than typical Eurasians, more than most sub-Saharan groups. This suggests that even when the Sahara was green and navigable, gene flow across the region remained limited. Cultural traditions, herding practices, and tool types changed over centuries, yet the population's genetic identity stayed stable, indicating local continuity rather than large-scale migration. As climate shifted, rainfall retreated, lakes dried, and the Sahara transitioned back to hyper-arid desert within a relatively short period. The layers at Takakori end abruptly, sealed by wind-blown sand. For scientists, this site shows how quickly habitable regions can transform into unlivable landscapes. The Green Sahara was not a slow fade. It was a climate flip, with human cultures adapting until the environment crossed a threshold they could no longer survive. A unique, puzzling burial in Sudan's Bayuda Desert. In 2018, archaeologists surveying the Bayuda Desert of Sudan uncovered a modest burial dated to roughly 2050 to 1750 BCE, within the period of the Kerma Kingdom. The grave contains a middle-aged man with simple goods, 2 ceramic vessels, and a necklace of 82 blue-glazed disc beads. Nothing about the mound signals high status, but when one vessel is opened in the lab, the burial becomes extraordinary. Inside the jar lies a mixture of charred acacia wood, cereal grains, legumes, insect remains, and fossilized feces. This is interpreted as the burned remnants of a funeral feast, ashes and scraps swept together and placed beside the dead. The man himself was not cremated. The burned material originates from a separate fire associated with ritual activity. Archaeologists note that no other known Kerma burial contains this exact combination, marking it as a unique cultural expression rather than a standard practice. The contents also reveal an ancient environment very different from the modern Bayuda: savanna vegetation, stored grains, and insects associated with more humid conditions. In effect, the jar becomes a miniature environmental archive. It shows that the region once supported productive landscapes, now erased by desertification. This single burial highlights how local rituals, ecosystems, and climate states can vanish, leaving only rare clues. It reinforces a pattern seen across Africa. Subtle finds can expose entire worlds we didn't know existed. Reading microtunnels and ancient DNA as warnings. Ancient environmental DNA research shows that genetic traces can survive close to 1 million years under the right conditions. This allows scientists to reconstruct past ecosystems and track how plant and animal communities change during warming or cooling phases. While much of this work has focused on polar regions, the principles apply to African archives such as caves, lake sediments, and desert shelters. The genomes from Takarkori provide an early example for North Africa, revealing how isolated human lineages endured until climate shifts forced cultural and geographic change. Microtunnels like those in Namibia, Saudi Arabia, and Oman act as a different kind of archive. Instead of preserving bodies or DNA, they record behavior, how ancient organisms moved through rock, dissolved minerals, and interacted with groundwater. When combined with fossils and DNA, they give scientists a 3-layered record: genetics, morphology, and behavior, all preserved in stone. The disturbing part is that the behavioral layer remained invisible for decades, unnoticed until researchers studied the tunnels closely. This raises the possibility that other forms of life or environmental processes may be hidden in equally subtle features. If rock-boring microbes still exist in deep carbonate aquifers today, they may respond to modern shifts in water chemistry caused by farming, pollution, or climate change. Their impact is unknown, potentially increasing or decreasing carbon release. This uncertainty extends to many microbial communities across African soils and rock systems. Scientists are uneasy not because they foresee a specific threat, but because the Earth system still contains large gaps in understanding. Africa's combined archives, ancient DNA, fossils, and microtunnels suggest that abrupt ecological shifts are more common than we once believed. They serve as early warning signals that Earth's stability can turn quickly when thresholds are crossed. Why? Scientists can't shake the unease about what Africa has revealed. Across Africa, 4 distinct types of evidence reveal a shared message. Microtunnels in Namibia, Oman, and Saudi Arabia expose a hidden microbial world capable of altering carbon-rich rock. Fossil basins in Tanzania and Zambia show how ecosystems collapsed rapidly during the 252-million-year-old Permian to Triassic extinction. Green Sahara DNA from Takarkori uncovers human populations adapting to climates that disappeared within a few thousand years. And the Bayuda Desert burial in Sudan captures a ritual and environment now erased by expanding desert. Together, these discoveries highlight 3 unsettling lessons. First, entire life forms can leave almost no trace, only microscopic scars that we overlook for decades. Second, climate tipping points are real. Once forests collapse or carbon feedbacks intensify, recovery can take millions of years. Third, human societies are far more vulnerable to climate flips than we expect. The Sahara turned from savanna to desert within centuries, reshaping where people could live. Modern development, mining, and erosion threaten many of the archives that contain this knowledge. At the same time, rapid warming and land use change are transforming African ecosystems that act as analogs for the past. Scientists race to gather data, cores, fossils, isotopes, DNA, before these signals vanish. Each new discovery feels like opening a page from a book that may soon be unreadable. What Africa has revealed is not a single mystery, but a pattern. Earth's history is shaped by sudden, powerful shifts that leave only fragments behind. Those fragments, uncovered now, warn that stability is temporary and thresholds matter. These clues disturb scientists because they show how easily both ecosystems and cultures can be pushed past the point of return. What began as a strange pattern in Namibian stone has grown into a continent-wide revelation. From rock-boring tunnels to ancient genomes, from Permian extinction basins to puzzling burials in Sudan, Africa has uncovered clues that challenge long-held assumptions about life, climate, and Earth's hidden history. Scientists are disturbed not because these discoveries threaten us directly, but because they expose how much we have overlooked. How many processes, species, and tipping points have shaped the planet without leaving obvious traces? As more evidence emerges, one question remains. Will we learn from what Africa has unearthed, or ignore the warnings written in its ground? If you want more breakthroughs like this, subscribe, hit the bell, and join us as we uncover the hidden stories shaping our planet.